Hello and welcome. Today you are with Kelly Hearn and we are learning all about coaching up. So, you are on the channel Transitional Leadership with Kelly Hearn LLC, and this is the channel where we help individuals and businesses build, implement skills in leadership and career development. My goodness, so that we can foster a greater impact, right? And so today we are doing that through coaching up. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart. In the blog this week, I talk all about an experience that I had in coaching up with a boss that I didn't necessarily have a perfect working relationship with. And I know that there are so many people who can resonate with that, right? They know all about working with a boss that maybe they don't have a perfect relationship with. But to be honest, you don't just need to coach up when you don't get along with someone. You need to coach up whenever there is a situation where the person who's above you could benefit from your experience, from your knowledge, from your reflection on the situation. There are a million situations where you should be coaching up. And so I don't want you to have this myth in your head that it only applies to those situations that are a little bit sticky. Now, if it's a situation where you're giving your boss some constructive feedback to help make them better, it might be sticky regardless of how good of a relationship you have. But it doesn't have to be tumultuous or rocky or even a downright toxic situation for you to need to coach up, because we should be learning from each other all the time. It doesn't matter what your title is, it doesn't matter what their title is, or what that reporting structure looks like, whether it's directly up, a little bit to the side, or skipping a few levels. There are a multitude of opportunities to coach up. And so today I want to get really tactical in the YouTube video to help you understand how to implement these very few and I'll say simple. So much of this stuff that we talk about is simple in theory, but difficult to implement because you have to be really intentional and consistent in the work that you're doing. But what you're actually doing are three pretty simple steps. So for coaching up, we're going to talk about getting them on your side. And we do that through asking questions. And then we're going to talk about creating momentum. So just because the person agrees with you doesn't mean that anything has necessarily happened yet. So we have to create some momentum in working with them to get the ball rolling. And we're going to do that through quick action on our side. Okay. Then we're going to talk about reflecting and relating. And so that is all about communicating why and how we needed to make a change to whatever their original plan was or whatever their original handling of the situation was, as kind and succinctly as possible, while still giving them the nuggets of our own reflection so that they're able to learn from that situation. So again, three pretty simple steps. It's just the implementation that can take some work. So simple, but with work. Get them on your side, create momentum, and then reflect and relate. All right. So how do we do that? And I want to use an example. So it'll be a very similar example to what we used in the blog. I'm just not going to utilize the story. If you get a lot out of the stories and you're able to kind of see yourself in them, by all means, click the link in the show notes and head over the blog to read all through that situation. It gives you more of the details on what was going on and why I was coaching up in that specific scenario. But for the video for today, we're just going to get really tactical on how you can do it. So when you have a situation where you need to provide some coaching up, which in today's day and age, a lot of that can look like understaffed and overworked teams. So if you need to coach up on the fact that you just keep getting more and more and more thrown at you or thrown at your team, and you need to kind of voice that concern, there's a way to do it that will help, coach them up and create a better situation for the future. And there's a way to do it that will just make you look like a complainer. So obviously we want to land on that first side, right? And we're going to do that again, first step, by getting them on your side. Now, despite what people often do, telling someone over and over and over again that what they're doing is wrong or what they're doing won't work is not going to get them on your side. You are not going to convince them by repeatedly telling them what needs to happen or what you don't like about what they're doing. Okay, so think about this with your own kids or with any kids that you see, really. If you needed them to leave the playground and you just repeatedly said, it's time to go, it's time to go, it's time to go. We have to get to the grocery store. We need to get home. We have to do this. It's time to go. Do they care? No, they don't care. And it's not just because they're 4 and 5 years old. They don't care because you're not involving them in the decision. You're not involving them in what that next step is. You're just talking at them. And oftentimes, when you don't agree, you're not even talking at them in a kind way, right? So you're telling them what they're doing wrong. And so you're automatically causing that other person, which again, we're coaching up here. So usually they're the person above you or maybe kitty corner up and to the side. But you're offending them when you do that. When you repeatedly tell them why you're not going to do or you can't do or it won't work, the thing that they're asking you to do, you're you're just irritating them. You are not getting them on your side. You're not helping them understand what a better way to go is. So, how do we do that? We ask questions and we ask real questions. So, I was working with a client and we were kind of going through this framework in a different situation. And I said, I wonder what would happen if you asked more questions. And she said, I did ask a question. I asked them how they expected me to do that. And I guess technically, in English class, we would have put a question mark on the end of that. How do you expect me to do this? But it's not a question, it's an accusation. You're not giving me the resources to be able to get this done. That's what that says, right? And so, again, you're not involving them in that next step. You're not bringing them over to your side of the equation, which is what you want, right? That's what we're calling this step. Get them on your side. Help them to agree with you. And by accusing them or asking or creating accusations that are masquerading as a question isn't going to do that. So, I want to give you some examples of questions that you can ask. All right. So, you might want to write these down because they would work in just about any situation. It doesn't have to be the overworked example. So, I have 3 of them here for you. One question is there another way to handle this? Now, this one can get a little bit tricky because your tone's going to make a big difference on that. Adding a little I wonder to the front can make a huge difference in the way you ask it and in the way it's received. I wonder if there's another way we could handle this. We have this whole other workload over here, and you want to just lump it on top of my team? I wonder if there would be a different way to handle that. I wonder if there would be another way for us to look at this. All right. Okay, next question. What is the primary focus with this? Okay, so that helps you both to understand where you're starting from, and then you can oftentimes develop a great solution off of that. So let's put an example around that one. So maybe you're being asked to do more work, your team's being asked to do more work, and it just feels like more work that isn't something that you should be responsible for. By asking the question, what is the primary focus with this? Your boss, your leader, your senior leader, whoever it is, might say something like, we don't want to compromise on customer service. And so we need a team with really strong customer service skills to take this on. Oh, okay. So really, it's a compliment to our team. There might still be another way to handle it, but at least you know where they're starting from and what is the most important thing about this work being taken on. Maybe there's another way we can serve this customer. Maybe there's another group that could take this on with the same track record, but that leader just isn't familiar with it. But that is always a great question to ask to know that you guys can align on where that priority stands. Okay. So we talked about two questions already, right? Is there another way to handle this? And what is the primary focus with this? The third one that I want to give you is, would you mind if I put some thought into that? Or would you mind if I put some thought into an alternative to that? It buys you a little bit of time, right? It doesn't necessarily say that you have the answer right now. That's okay. Sometimes you won't. But at least it gives you the opportunity to think through it a little bit more and get back to them. And it tells them that you're taking this need seriously, whatever it is. So there may not always be time for you to, think about it over the weekend, but perhaps there's something that, you could get back to them by the end of the day. Would you mind if I put some thought into an alternative? Could we start working on whatever you're recommending, senior leader, tomorrow? And could I potentially get back to you by the end of the day if I can come up with a solution that still hits that primary focus, but doesn't sacrifice whatever it is? That's the reason why you don't think it's a great idea. It doesn't sacrifice the time. It doesn't sacrifice the tax on the team, whatever the case may be. So any one of those questions will help you to bridge the gap between you and your leader and what those very important goals are, and help them to get on your side. If nothing else, it's just telling them that you're invested and that you want to create a solution, which is huge. All right, so that next step, create momentum. So we want to take some quick action here. It's not good enough to just think about it and ponder and muse. That's not enough. We need to take some action that's going to help us get to the next step, the better option, whatever that may be. Okay. So maybe you already have a plan that you can roll out. Maybe your quick action is to think about it for just a couple of hours and see if you can come up with something better. Maybe you put something into ChatGPT and see if AI can come up with anything else that you can do here. Okay. But you want to have some sort of momentum, some sort of action on your side that's going to help them agree with what you're doing. Now, if it's a big project, it could be research of what is going on in the industry and what other companies are seeing that are similar to yours. So I've seen that happen with like staffing requests. So sometimes companies, businesses can get a little bit of tunnel vision around how many people they need for a specific role. But it could be based on outdated information. It could be based on prior processes or outdated processes, or they don't realize that they have the ability to integrate these new systems and functionalities. Okay, so what can be done then is going out to Google or going out to forums or going to these industry sites to identify what is typical and what we should be expecting, just to kind of get the juices flowing. You don't necessarily need to copy whatever you find in Google or ChatGPT or all of these different publications that you can find for your industry, but at least it gives you a new vantage point that helps your brain start flexing in different directions. Your quick action could also be something much more concrete than that. Okay, so again, in the blog, one of the examples I give is when I was working with a team that was just getting overloaded and overloaded and overloaded in work. And so I had them go through like a keep and stop process. So all of the work they were doing, they went through and basically tagged things as, this is ours, we should do this. This should be done, but isn't ours. Somebody else should be doing it. And this is old and dumb, and no one should do this anymore. We should get rid of this. And so I was able to take that quick action, which I get into the details of exactly how long it took. It wasn't very long, spoiler alert. But I get into that in the blog, so you can hop over there and read all about that. But it allowed me to take this quick action to my boss and say, Look, I would love the opportunity to try this situation on a bigger scale. That was the question, right? Can we try this on a bigger scale with the rest of the teams? And here is the action I've already taken. So I was able to kind of build on that momentum with with her, to help her understand where we could take this and what we could do by engaging the rest of the teams. So any sort of quick action that you can take, um, or make them feel as though the quick action has already taken place. So in the example with doing the research, you can say, can I have by the end of the day? And I will get that back to you by then. Then at least they know what that plan is. All right. The next step is to reflect and relate. So, whether or not you were able to implement your own new solution, or you were able to work with the solution that they gave you and make some progress with that, I want you to remember to come back around and communicate that later. So, not in the heat of the moment, not when everybody's scrambling to figure out what's going on in this specific situation, but maybe in your next one on one. Maybe you set up a meeting a few weeks out or a month out just specifically to talk about this situation, but you communicate why and how you saw things happening and what you experienced, and do it in a succinct way. There is nothing that frustrates senior leaders more. Insider pro tip, nothing that frustrates senior leaders more than getting an email that is scroll page after scroll page after scroll page long that they're having to read through. They're just not going to do it. So when you put it into these succinct bullet points or a couple of sentences that they're able to digest and maybe ask you more questions and get more engaged, that can be a huge benefit. Now, in the blog, I know I've referenced it a lot in this video, so definitely go over and read it, but I want to read you exactly what I told this manager during that reflect and relate session that we had. That was during my one-on-one in this situation, but I'm going to read it to you right out of the blog. So I went back to her and I was having a conversation in my one-on-one, and I said, if I just said yes every time you asked me to do something, we would drown. It's our job as leaders to find ways to make it work for the company and make it work for our people. I'm sure you have to give creative solutions to your boss sometimes, right? Maybe you could give me some insight on that. I read that to you, I tell that to you word for word because I want you to understand that it's a coaching situation, but you're blending it together. You're really making it very clear, but also kind and empathetic with your boss. You're not saying, hey, Karen, I think you should do this better. It's ridiculous the way you handle these situations. You can't just keep piling stuff on us. That's not coaching. That's not going to make her make a change. That is going to make her just plain old dislike you because you sound like an entitled brat. But when you come at it from a point of humility for yourself, like, man, this is work that I have to do. And I know that we all have to do this as leaders. So now you're involving you and this manager that you're working with. And then you're asking for more insight into when they do it. So you are, without telling them, you got to think about this more. This is not working. You're inviting them to reflect for themselves. Do they say no? Do they come up with creative solutions? Is there something else that they could be doing to support you in those times? Because it does have to work for the company. That's 100% true. But it does also have to work for the people that you're leading. And so giving that person the opportunity to reflect on it will have a huge impact overall. All right, I know that that was a lot of meat to this video, to this session. I would love for you to like and subscribe if you are getting something out of it, but most of all, share. If there is someone who needs this lesson, who is struggling to coach up their own boss, please share this video out to them, share the blog out to them. And if you have any other questions, by all means, leave them in the comments or send me an email. Check the notes from this show for all the details. All right. Have a great day.